I love human ingenuity, and AI is a tool to benefit that. And as long as we keep that order correct, that we're the ones here to solve the problem. We leverage AI, we leverage data as a tool to do that. We drive those insights. Um, I think our opportunities are really limitless. I think problems that we felt were insurmountable in the past, we've overcome them.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Humpton, CEO of Siemens USA, and you're listening to the Optimistic Outlook podcast. This episode follows up on perspectives I shared with you recently. Look in our feed for Starting America's Engines. We've been talking a lot about the efforts to revitalize American manufacturing and how exciting it is to see investment in new factories. You'll sometimes hear these referred to as greenfield facilities. But I want us to keep focused on another important challenge, one that gets overlooked. And that's the industrial base that's already here. Not the greenfield, but the brownfield. Let me break this down a little bit more. You see, we often hear a rallying call to bring back or reshore American manufacturing. And I like these phrases. They generate excitement. But you just heard me use the phrase revitalize, and that's an intentional choice as I think about the full manufacturing ecosystem. You see, the path forward on this manufacturing goal isn't just about building new factories. This isn't about starting from scratch or tearing things down and starting over. Our path forward is investing in new facilities and, this is critical, building on top of and repurposing what we already have. Did you know that 98% of American manufacturers are small and medium-sized businesses? That's 98%. This reminds us that U.S. plants aren't standalone operations, all functioning independently. They're part of a supply chain, an ecosystem. The smaller and medium-sized firms in particular play a critical role in this, and oftentimes are suppliers for larger companies. Take Siemens, for example. Across America, we have 24 manufacturing plants and 12,000 U.S. suppliers. Now, in manufacturing, it doesn't matter if you're an industrial giant or a mom-and-pop operation. We all have at least one thing in common. To compete, to thrive, to be adaptable, to grow, we have to be deploying core industrial technologies, automation, digital twins, industrial AI. Greenfield manufacturing will have these technologies baked in from the start. The brownfields, though, face a different and possibly more complex challenge. They have to integrate new technologies into legacy operations. They have to find a way to complement long-term investments they've already made in their buildings and hardware. And with that, I have the perfect guest to help us understand what's really happening on the ground in U.S. manufacturing and how we transform the brownfield. Del Costy leads Siemens USA's efforts in the United States to serve manufacturers. He's been working in manufacturing for decades, and I'm really pleased to have him back on the podcast. All right, take a listen. Del, you've got a front row seat to what's happening on the ground in American manufacturing. I'm eager to know what you're hearing from your customers about what they need, what barriers do they see, and what are the opportunities ahead?
As far as what we hear, we're hearing a ton of things. The fact is, the vast majority of them recognize that they have to learn to effectively use their data. But the problem I think we see is one out of four have confidence that they're collecting the right data. So in terms of barriers, they're making things today. If I'm running a brownfield, I have production rates to hit. I'm making product. How do I stop and pause and look at my data maturity or data collection and then figure out how I'm going to consume that data and then make decisions off of it? It's a challenge, and we understand that. I think the opportunity is we're right in the middle of that, and there are tools. There is a path forward. And if we're going to take advantage of what everyone is trying to, which is the capabilities AI are going to continue to bring us, understanding our data and methods to collect it are absolutely necessary.
Understanding our data and methods to collect it. Are you talking about, for instance, putting sensors into the manufacturing environment? Are you talking about connecting the business systems to the manufacturing floor?
All the above. I have a machine. I'm machining a part. I have an injection mold. Whatever process I have. What data am I collecting off that? Do I understand the throughput running through my facility? Do I have sensors to understand if I'm hitting a failure mode on a conveyor? It's a system. Production is a system, and if I'm going to figure out how to optimize it, I do need to understand because that's how I'm going to gain those insights and know what to do with them. It's not easy for a small to medium enterprise. Our CEO, Roland Bush, Siemens AG CEO, was recently at a small to medium enterprise in Texas, and he was having a great conversation with the leadership team, and he was talking to the CIO, and he talked about, well, if if we could do these things, how would you go about implementing that? What would your team do? He said, well, I am the team, so I'm the CIO and the team. So that's what small to medium manufacturers have to deal with. I mean, that's the fact. They wear multiple hats. It's hands-on for everyone to do what they need to do. So that's where I'm saying ease of use of tools, easy accessibility to tools, low barriers to entry. We have to think about how these things need to connect on the shop floor and get the small to medium enterprises the data that they need in the way that they can consume it and gain insights from it. And so the tools are accelerating rapidly. Our ability to understand and apply data science to the volume of data we're going to collect, that's accelerating. And we just need to help any company of any size be in a position to take advantage of that.
Yeah, let's talk about these barriers kind of one by one. Because the last time you and I talked, you introduced me to a phrase which I've just loved, that manufacturers have to transform at the speed of relevance. So this step one, number one, we can only use the modern tools of technology if we have data. I mean, AI works on data. So I'm kind of curious about whether there's an opportunity here not only to work with individual manufacturers, but is it also possible to create communities of manufacturers so that you get larger data sets? Or how do you think you can go about solving that data problem in the small and medium manufacturing sector?
It's a great question, and it's not an easy one to answer. We are seeing that in other parts. I mean, look, a lot of the hyperscalers, they're all cloud services. So companies, all of us as consumers, we leverage technology every day. Our data, it resides in a massive data set. That massive data set can be interrogated and it could bring benefits to our lives on a daily basis. Manufacturing, obviously, cybersecurity threats, all the reasons that we know are relatively disconnected facilities. So the answer to the question, though, is yeah, I think there is a Siemens itself is working on industrial model or a framework that is going to allow manufacturers as they get digital control of their facilities, have a large language model that is in their language, in their context, so that they can gain those insights, so that it's not like life for us in ChatGPT. If my wife and I are going to go to Croatia, well, we can go into ChatGPT and say, here's what we like, here's what we don't like, this is the trip we're going to take, help guide us. If it gets something wrong, it's okay. It was an experience, may not have been optimized for our likes or dislikes, but it's okay. It's not going to hurt us. On the shop floor, inquiring to AI as to something I need to do. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't give me an accurate answer, then what? So having an industrial large language model that really understands engineering and production is going to be a huge asset to our customers. So I think yes, things will continue to evolve here and get much more fidelity for manufacturers.
We also know that in the US today, access to power is one of the big barriers to expanding operations. So, talk to me a little bit about the role and importance of power and energy efficiency in the operations you're seeing.
When we think about U.S. cost competitiveness in manufacturing, any manufacturer will tell you power is a huge part of what they do. We know in other parts of the world they're working on lower cost access to power to help manufacturers. But what if we can just optimize and get much more efficient about the way we're consuming power in manufacturing operations? Having a digital footprint can help you do that as well. Can I idle parts of my facility when they're not needed? It's not necessary for me to produce what's required of me to produce. We've done projects for customers, and we've been able to roll out to a lot of facilities, and simply by deploying some key technologies, save 9-10% right out of the gate in terms of energy consumption and machines on the facility. So I think there's tremendous opportunity there. I think larger scale, longer term, there's even more we can do.
So, Dell, thank you so much. It's been helpful to get your perspective on what are some of these technical challenges. I'd love your advice on where can companies start if they want to start to enter this new era of manufacturing.
I think it goes back to what we talked about in terms of understanding data maturity. It's hard to digitalize a facility if you're not collecting data. So the first thing we have to do is do an assessment. Once we have the mechanisms to collect the data, then we can really start evolving into actually creating a digital twin. There are a lot of capabilities that are easily accessible, though, that in the meantime can improve areas of production, and then we can build a holistic plan of how we would do that. So, um, really first and foremost, we're never going to get to that position of harnessing the power of digital twin if we don't have the ability to collect data, nor will be able to take advantage of all the great AI capabilities that keep they're evolving so fast.
Now, let's switch gears for a minute because the other big thing I keep hearing about, and I'm curious whether you do, is concerns from the manufacturing sector about workforce. What advice do you give to companies who are facing what they perceive as workforce shortages, whether it's engineers, software developers, or technicians?
Well, I think it's real. We work really hard at attracting talent to our organization. We do a lot with universities. I think there's a mass acknowledgement that this is an area of emphasis in the United States that we all need to take seriously. But I do think we also need to evolve. We need to evolve in what it means to operate a modern manufacturing facility. Um, it's a funny story, Bart. I was out to eat last weekend and I'm sitting at a table and I look to my right, and I'm not kidding you. This is a baby in a high chair, cell phone propped up in front of this baby, and this little girl is literally swiping across this phone screen. Now, I remember seeing this from 5 and 6 year olds, but it's the first time I've really seen a baby doing that. Why do I say that? Uh, this little girl at 5 years old is probably going to already have done things with AI, maybe even younger than that. When she graduates, hopefully with an engineering degree, what's her expectation going to be when she gets in the workforce? Our tools need to meet the generation of workers where they are, not where we are. And so I think it's an opportunity to really update how manufacturing works and take advantage of worker creativity in a way we were never able to do before. Now, not naive, this also requires a lean in on workforce development programs, and that's something that we take seriously. So we're going to continue to work on programs. I'm sitting at one of the American Makes facilities today, as a matter of fact. This is Lift in Detroit. There's Project Ignite. There are programs out there to get out to high school students and earlier, get them interested in STEM, but also get them understanding what modern manufacturing looks like. And so there are great programs, and I think we're going to see that accelerate in the United States.
Well, hey, that's great. What is your pitch to someone at the start of their careers these days, maybe even somebody who's mid-career, for why they should apply their talents and skills to the work of advanced manufacturing in America?
So I talk about this a lot. I'm in Detroit. I'm from Detroit. I speak about Detroit a lot. But there's always people that spend time here always comment on how special the people are, and I love to say it's because at our core we're a blue collar area, and I think being a blue collar area comes with resiliency. I think resiliency is a great life trait, and I think there's character in that. I'm proud of the United States. I know the role Detroit played in protecting our country. And so, but we saw what happened when manufacturing left. And now we see how things can evolve as it comes back. And, Barb, you and I talked about this a lot. A manufacturing job there's all kinds of statistics on it. I'd say conservatively creates 7.5 jobs in the community it's in. I think if you look at service, it's somewhere between 1 and 1.3, 1.4. We can see the impact. I if I'm a young person and I know those statistics and I know that I can be building something to evolve our future, to change our future, to make it better, I can make it green, I can make it versatile, I can make it better lives. Why wouldn't I do that?
That's great advice. I love to paint the picture of manufacturing as the new tech sector. And the tools that you're bringing into the world right now, Dell, really are going to make this an exciting place for uh, people starting their careers who want to be engaged in tech and now want to actually apply those things for real. Now, as we get to the end of these podcast episodes, I always like to ask our guests to offer their view of the future. What gives you an optimistic outlook as we take on this challenge and the opportunity ahead of transforming American manufacturing?
Talk about AI all the time. I love human ingenuity, and AI is a tool to benefit that. And as long as we keep that order correct, that we're the ones here to solve the problem. We leverage AI, we leverage data as a tool to do that. We drive those insights. Um, I think our opportunities are really limitless. I think problems that we've felt were insurmountable in the past, we've overcome them. Apollo 13 is one of my favorite movies, and it's one of my favorite movies because they got hit with challenge after challenge. Yet we heard right at the beginning, we're not going to lose anyone on our watch, and we saw how creative they were. I think our society is that way, and I think we're going to continue to be creative, and I think we'll solve any challenge our way.
People are going to drive this. Dell,
Yeah.
thanks so much for being on the Optimistic Outlook. It was great to have Dell back on the podcast and to gain his insights into how to transform the brownfield. I want to encourage you now to go to the show notes and click on my LinkedIn newsletter. Make sure you subscribe. I'll have takeaways there from this conversation soon. And please share your thoughts with me in the comments. I really appreciate hearing from you. Thanks for listening.
Please follow us on social media and on your favorite podcasting platform. Thank you for tuning in.